Yo, what's going on, guys? Crispy Flakes here. So for today's video, I want to talk about the New York Knicks, especially the fact that the New York Knicks are 3-1. Now, I will say, just by saying that statement, I can already feel like the Laker fans and the Heat fans and the Buck fans and really the fans of any great basketball team already going in the comment section saying, Crispy, they're 3-1 in preseason, and they have beaten the Detroit Pistons and the Cleveland Cavaliers. Which I totally get that, but I also feel the need as the fan of a bad basketball team to come to a defense of Knicks fans and really just say like why this is still kind of a big deal and some of the amazing things I have been seeing from this team very, very early on. So yes, they have beaten the Cleveland Cavaliers and the Detroit Pistons, but at the same time, while people are saying, well, that's just the Pistons and the Cavs, any other team would be saying if they beat the Knicks, well, that's just the Knicks. So I feel like it's progression where the Knicks are still beating teams that other people think that, hey, you're supposed to beat. Because to me, that's a step in the right direction. That shows that you are no longer the worst team in the NBA because you're beating the teams that you're supposed to beat. Now, nobody expects the Knicks to go out there and beat, like, you know, the Portland Trail Blazers or, like, the Philadelphia 76ers. If they were, it'd be like, wow, that's a really good win for them, right? But they are beating the teams that they are supposed to be beating. And I will say, looking at some of these guys on this roster, because obviously with Tom Tibbs out there, it's a completely different like dynamic to the team, and it just kind of seems like they have more of an identity. They kind of know who they are and who they want to be. But some of the new additions on this team are just gelling right away with some of the guys that were kind of looked upon as hindrances to the roster. I think the first guy I really want to start talking about, and I know this is a name that not a lot of Knicks fans really like, but he's been kind of shown to be something different so far, and that's Julius Randle. Last year on the New York Knicks, Julius Randle was straight up a ball stopper. He was a guy that you would pass the ball to, and you knew right away that play was dead. It was game over. He was going to shoot it, or the shot clock was going to get ran down, and a bad possession was going to happen. Now, in the last preseason game against the Cleveland Cavaliers, this man had 8 assists. He had a 43 plus minus. And the reason I really want to bring up the 8 assists is because the way they were utilizing him is kind of who my player comparison was for Julius Randle going into his NBA career. And that's Lamar Odom, a 6'8", 6'9", lefty that, you know, you probably don't want to play at center, but at the same time, he might be a little bit too slow for power forward, but at the same time, he has the handles and he has the passing abilities to make everybody around him better. I was absolutely loving the lineup having Julius out there playing with Reggie Bullock and Immanuel Quickley, because those are two guys or two guards that can just light up from three, and it was just working. You can still run it through Julius as the primary ball handler, and he can still do his thing. If he sees the opportunity to get to the basket or whatnot, then Julius can take the shot. That's fine. But by surrounding him with three-point shooters and not having guys like, you know, Frank Ntilikina, who's not exactly offensive heavy out there, that's where the ball stoppage no longer exists, because there's always kind of like an outing. So Julius Randle is using his passing abilities, his higher basketball IQ, to get guys, you know, to make the right pass and make the right play instead of just forcing something up. So Julius Randle, I mean, like I said, it's very early on in the preseason. I'm just hoping this is more of the Julius that we see, because, you know, Tibbs, as a head coach, I mean, he knows how to really get big guys to kind of work the ball around. I always thought, you know, guys like Joakim Noah on the Chicago Bulls, you know, back in the day, really good passer, right? I mean, Joakim Noah was absolutely fantastic. I mean, obviously, Julius Randle is not the same, like, defensive player that Joakim Noah is, but as far as ball movement goes, yeah, it kind of works out, man. The next guy I need to talk about is Immanuel Quickley, because Quickley early on has quickly shown, no pun intended, 100% actually pun intended, that he could be like the future starting point guard of this team. And when you are a rebuilding team, you need guys like that. You need guys that, hey, nobody is really going into the NBA draft. Nobody was really coming out of the NBA draft saying that Immanuel Quickley was going to be like a superstar, all-star point guard. And I don't really want to put that tag on him right away because he has a lot more to prove. But so far, he's been damn looking like a Kemba Walker out there to me. I would actually say his best player comparison that a lot of, you know, probably older Knicks fans will kind of recognize a bit more would have to be like a Jamal Crawford. Because think about Immanuel Quickley when he was on Kentucky. Now, I didn't watch a ton of Kentucky basketball, but kind of what I've been reading about Immanuel Quickley is that he was definitely one of those like combo guards where sometimes he would do a little ball handling, but for the most part, you want to say he's like the natural, playmaker, facilitator for a basketball team. But he definitely has those capabilities, kind of so like Tyler Hero did at times in the bubble for the Miami Heat. It's like, okay, nobody really saw that from him before, but he definitely has those capabilities. Because a lot of these guards growing up, I mean, they grow up being the main ball handler of whatever basketball team they're on just because they're that type of player, right? So Quickley has really shown that he could be like a starting point guard in the NBA. But the offense he brings, like he just has like, I love guards, especially young rookies, that are not one-dimensional with their scoring. Like, it's like, okay, well, we know how that guy's going to score the basketball. It's like, no, Quickley was taken to the basket, some nice floaters. Obviously, can handle the basketball, can pull up from three. He was playing around off screens, playing off Julius Randle. I mean, he was scoring in a lot of different ways, which is extremely, extremely important. Get to the free throw line. He had 7 free throws in the last preseason game against the Cleveland Cavaliers. Shot 60% from three off 5 attempts. And then, of course, obviously, you got the defense, man. He had 5 steals. Man. This guy is looking like a steal in the draft. Now, like I said, once again, man, it's only preseason, but I still think it's something to be excited about if you are a Knicks fan, because I know forever this team has been waiting for guys like Frank Ntilikina to kind of turn things around and be that next big guy, right? The next player I want to talk about is a guy that we're waiting for to really come up, and I still think, given time, he will do it, and that's Kevin Knox. And I think the thing about Kevin Knox is that, we all kind of want him to be like that go-to scorer that you can just give the basketball to, and it's like, okay, he'll find a way. And sometimes just guys are not like that. Kevin Knox is like 6'8", so he definitely has like the length to be a good defender in the NBA. So I feel like if he can work on that, if he can just be like an okay defender, that will get him on the basketball court. But obviously the thing that can really set him apart is the three-point shooting. And plus, I love the idea of the nickname Knocks It Down. Kevin knocks it down, man. You might actually hate that nickname, and now that I say it out loud, yeah, I actually hate it too. But in the last preseason game against the Cavaliers, he shot 6 for 7 from 3, man. Like, literally, if he can just be that guy, if you can shoot the basketball, you will find a space in the league. You will be on a roster, and not just on the roster wearing the jersey like I was, when I made the basketball team one time in high school. Actually, I think it was 8th grade. I wore the jersey, man, but I wasn't playing. This guy couldn't knock down threes. Although my one shot wasn't made three-pointer, by the way. On the season, I'm just gonna say that it was a banked three. So the bank was open that day. But regardless, like Kevin Knox, if he can become more of just like a confident shooter, then he'll be good to go, man. He'll definitely have some PT out there, right? Now, outside of that, I've kind of been on and off about Mitchell Robinson, just because like it seems like early on in NBA preseason, he was still having the same issues where it's like, damn, like Mitchell Robinson's a really good player. But unfortunately, we can only play him for 7.9 minutes because he gets 6 fouls and it's just game over. He fouls himself out of the game before the game's even over. I don't really want to say fouls out, but he gets himself in a bad foul situation where it's like, okay, well, he's got 5 of them. It's the first quarter. What do we do? The last game, he did a good job of that. He had 0 fouls. He had 4 blocks. And sometimes as a defender, I think one thing to note is that a good shot blocker does not always mean you are a good defender. For example, Hassan Whiteside last year on the Portland Trail Blazers, I believe he led the NBA in blocks, or he was like top 3, something like that. But there's also a lot of times where he took gambles, and it just didn't work, out. So Mitchell Robinson, if he can just kind of keep his feet down and stay in front of his defender, and sure, every now and then go for the block if there's a good opportunity, that's going to get him a starting spot for this Knicks team, and he's going to be their center for the next decade. Outside of that, I mean, he had 12 rebounds, which was great. Obviously scoring-wise, I still think Mitchell Robinson, I've always said, has potential to be like a better scoring Rudy Gobert. I still fully believe that. I think he's a guy that obviously can finish around the basket. Last year was like 71% field goal percentage, which I think was like the highest since Wilt Chamberlain. Yeah, I said that out loud, man. Since Wilt Chamberlain, or maybe it was Kareem. I don't know, man. It was one of those dominant centers that you would not really expect to put Mitchell Robinson's name up with quite yet. But yeah, so Mitchell Robinson can obviously already score around the basket, can rebound the basketball. I still think that he needs to add like a little bit more of an aspect of like a mid-range game. He can still knock down every now and then, but for the most part, Mitchell Robinson's being utilized on the inside, right? So yeah, he's been absolutely fantastic. Well, later on, more so than early on. Like I said, there were still some of those mistakes of him like, hey, like pull it back with the going for the block. It's okay to not go for that play every single time, because if you're not on the court, well, I'm looking at the roster right now as far as like backup centers go. I mean, they got like Nerlens Noel, who I think was a pretty good addition, but for the most part, man, you want Mitchell Robinson out there on the court, right? All right, so moving on from him, who's another player that's been pretty impressive? RJ Barrett, no doubt. Like, RJ Barrett looks like he's kind of ready to go this season. And what I'm really liking about RJ is that he's not just like a scoring guard. Like, this is definitely a guy you can see being like that jack of all trades type of hopefully future all-star guard that's going to give you like 20 points, but also going to give you like 7 rebounds and 5 assists into the game, which those are the guys I absolutely love. I love guys that can influence a game, like I said, not be one-dimensional out there. Now, in the first preseason game against the Detroit Pistons, he started off really bad. It was I remember he put up like a pull-up 3, and he bricked it. Somebody got the offensive rebound, dished it back, cleaned the air ball out of bounds, and there was memes about it. And literally, like, ever since that moment, he was good to go. He's like, all right, man, I was just joking. That was me clowning right there. We're good to go. So, yeah, RJ Barrett looks like a lot more matured as a player too. Like I said, man, it's only his second season in the NBA. So, and like I said earlier, it's only preseason. It's only preseason. But it's a team that I feel like we need to just say, hey, that's cool to see. Like, I'm happy for your franchise out there. And the last player I actually want to talk about for this video, man, is Obi Toppin. Because Obi Toppin looks like he can be something in the NBA. Now, Obi is kind of one of those what I like to call like the Kuzma rookies. And what do I mean by that? A Kuzma rookie is basically a guy that was in college for, quite a long time, came to the NBA, and it's like, okay, so he should be able to, like, contribute to a team right now. He should be ready to go. He should be able to give them some scoring, which, he's kind of been on and off. I feel like with Obi Toppin, it's going to be kind of finding like his role on this team, because obviously when you have like Mitchell Robinson and Julius Randle out there, in an ideal situation, it would have been nice if Obi Toppin was like the starting 4 with Mitchell Robinson out there, which is probably what we'll see eventually for this team. But I mean, if Julius Randle is dropping 8 assists and having a 43 plus minus, then obviously he's going to be sticking around with the Knicks, right, man? So there's a chance where Obi Toppin is probably like mentally, he's like, hey, I want to go out here, I want to take 20 shots a game, but maybe coach is kind of sitting him down and be like, hey, for now, you're going to be coming off the bench as a scorer, right? So when you have a guy coming off the bench as a scorer, you kind of have to like early on see, hey, what can this guy be exactly? And you have to look at the little things. It's a lot more like of a smaller sample size, because when you're the starter for a team, you kind of have a lot more leeway to make mistakes. It's like, okay, well, this guy's doing this. Where coming off the bench, it's like, all right, man, you got like 20 minutes to show us what you got, right? Like, hey, you got 20 minutes to go out here and give us a spark. We don't really have time for you to go like 1 for 10 or whatever. So watching Obi Toppin early on, though, man, he's played like a very mature player. I mean, I said this thing about Kuzma when Kuzma started lighting up for the Lakers his rookie season. It's like, this looks like a guy that just kind of looks mature and kind of knows what he's doing out there, right? So Obi Toppin, I mean, he has the game on the inside. He has the ability to put the ball in the basket, or put the ball on the floor. And then the three-point shot, too, man, has looked pretty decent at times. I mean, last game, he only shot 1 attempt, so I'm definitely saying Obi needs to be a guy that shoots like 5 or 6 threes a game. He definitely has a nice fluent release where it's like, yeah, I'm okay with that. It's going to open a lot more of his games. Because I want to be more like that stretch big. I don't want to be, so much like Jabari Parker, where it's like, okay, like, damn, this guy would have dominated back in the early 2000s, and he'll just be like, okay, pretty good, in the 2020s or whatever, just because he kind of limits himself, right? So, plus, of course, Jabari Parker had his own injury issues, but for the most part, man, I feel like Obi Toppin should not be a one-dimensional offensive player, because he has the skill set to do everything out there, if you ask me. So, overall, I would say if you are a fan of the New York Knicks, yes, you only beat the Pistons, yes, you only beat the Cleveland Cavaliers, but at the same time, hey, you beat the Pistons, and you beat the Cleveland Cavaliers. You didn't even beat the Cleveland Cavaliers, man. You blew their asses out, man, 119-83. 119-83, man. Like, you all played hella nice out there. So, I don't know. I feel good about this stuff early on just because it's fun to watch, man. And like I said, if they go into next season and they don't win a single game, it's whatever. You still see promising things out here. It was the same song and dance with Isaac Okoro, which I should probably make a separate video about him for the Cleveland Cavaliers, man. So that's all I got to say about today's video, guys. Thank you all so much for watching, and peace out, my friends.